I am with Jojo Sutherland.
Hello.
From Comedy Army.
Yes.
Could you give us a bit of a run through of what the Comedy Army is, who you are, for those very few who don't know?
Oh God, I'm sure a lot of people don't know me. If the ticket selling's anything to go by, nobody knows who we are. But we're hoping to change that. Yes. I'm Jojo Sutherland. I'm a stand-up comedian. We're in my Bessie bus, just making sure that we don't have any traffic wardens because my wheels are not aligned. Stand-up comedian who had a really stupid idea, Kyle. It was just a daft idea that I would do a gig for the homeless, stand up in our boots. Fiorentini and Baker are friends of mine. She's an amazing designer, and she sort of said, should we do a charity gig? And, we could, people could win a pair of boots and, help the homeless. And I was like, that's a great idea. And it was a great idea. It is a great idea. Yeah. But it was just going to be one gig at the Backyard in London. And then I did think, well, actually, if we're going to have a great idea, a bit of a gimmick, and it was in the train back up to Scotland, I was like, well, actually, all my favourite clubs, I could probably, and I just thought A to B, how do you get from A to B? Aberdeen to Brighton. So that's kind of, and it took me 20 minutes. I'm not joking. I phoned Diva, I phoned Damon, the Glee, Paul Hot Water, I was like, can I do this gig? And they were all genuinely just straight on board. And it seemed really doable. And it is really doable. I think it's 12 cities, that's my phone going off. That's my crack. So I was introduced to somebody called Louisa Jackson, who has created this platform called Crack. So the whole event is powered by Crack because it's like the IMDb of comedy and Spotify. It's incredible. You should definitely have a look at it. And so all the events are on there. So it's a nationwide event all of a sudden. Yes. And the Comedy Army, genuinely, I just felt like I was building an army. I was just asking all my mates, I'm like, if I put a gig on, would you do it? I've forgotten half the people I've asked now. I got a message yesterday from Carl Hutchison saying, I'm still on for the 8th. I was like, oh shit, yeah, Carl, I forgot I asked you. So Carl Hutchison is also on. But my idea is that there shouldn't be a comedian in the country not gigging somewhere on the 8th. I've organised, I think it's 12 clubs, 13 clubs, 12 clubs, but that's not stopping anyone from going, all right, well, let's do another. Let's do another. If somebody else, if Daryl Martin or, Pete Vincent or any of these people, Spiky Mike, want to go, all right, well, we've got our gig on the Wednesday, we'll do it for the homeless. Then just put yourself on the platform, put a line up on, and I just love the idea that one day, one cause, one mission.
So the Comedy Army has been described as comedy's world's answer to Live Aid.
Yes.
What's the wildest thing you've had to do to get the comedians to agree to the project?
Not really, because we're all such good mates, and I was saying that to you earlier. I think people don't really necessarily know how much friendship is on behind the scenes. I know we all look like we're in competition, we have egos and we're all bitches and all this kind of stuff, but in reality, a lot of us have been comics for over 20, 30 years, up to 25 years at the end of this year, and that's a lot of time car sharing or doing a weekend at Jongleurs or being in Australia or doing the stand or staying on someone's sofa, especially when you first start out. These relationships built from when we were all little baby open spots. When Sarah Millican first did her first open spot at Red Raw in Edinburgh, we used to have the comedy forum on Chortle, and that's how people, and that was kind of how we communicate. And so she was like, oh, I don't really know anybody in Edinburgh, I've got my first open spot. And I was like, oh, I'll come and watch you. I said, you can stay at mine. And so genuinely that's how these friendships blossom, and then people go on to huge fame. I mean, I compared Kevin Bridges' first ever gig that he did at the Glasgow stand, where his dad was there and he had to leave straight after his gig because he was only 17, and they served him a pint at the bar. So the people that I don't think of people as famous because they're just my mates. And so I haven't really had to do anything outrageous, I don't think. But someone will remind me that I don't remember the outrageous things that I do. Because, I've got quite a reputation for being, I like a drink and I like to have a laugh. But yeah, I'm quite vocal and I don't take no for an answer. So that's possibly how I've managed to pull it off.
I mean, no one should be saying no anyway.
Well, I don't think so. I genuinely I think Tom Steve's one was like, who doesn't want to help the homeless? Yeah. Nobody does want to help the homeless. So yeah, and it is, I genuinely do think, and I'm not being all sort of hippy-dippy, I think individually we all have a good core and principles and all the rest of it, but when you just collectively, when you all join hands, we can genuinely make a difference. And it's not just about doing one day, one cause, one mission. It's about actually recognising the system and what needs to change. And when I've talked to loads of homeless charities, and Fiona from Simon Community, who's one of the major ones that we're supporting, she said that they're very good in crisis, actually. People come to them in crisis, even if it is just a sleeping bag, so that they've got a sleeping bag to sleep under a bridge. But I think there's about 100 people who are literally sleeping on the streets in Edinburgh at the moment. And she said, we're good with crisis and we are quite good at accommodating people, but you cannot put someone who's in crisis at that particular moment, that they've got to the point of such despair that they have no other option but to go, this is it, I'm going to have to sleep under a bridge, and then put them straight into a house, because that's been a build-up, and people are so unaware and not trauma-informed that that's chaos if you give crisis into accommodation. And she said something really fascinating to me, which she said, we're missing the two vital steps between crisis and accommodating somebody safely is hope and healing. And this is about giving people hope, about healing however anyone's got into that position. And for me, it's making sure, or trying to get general public, myself included, to know that it could be you, not the National Lottery. It could be you. That we sometimes, I think, look at people and go, well, I wouldn't get in that state, or I would.
It could happen to
but
anyone.
you just don't know what choices you make when you're forced into a situation, sometimes not of your own making. And even if it is of your own making, we all fuck up, we all make mistakes. So it's about acknowledging that, and basically, if anything, I'm being a bit selfish, it's trying to create pathways where it's not about eradicating homelessness as such, because people will always get into difficulties, people will always be in a situation, through poverty and inequality. But I do think that we can create a safety net with enough momentum that people don't actually have to physically sleep on the streets. And that even if, like the workshops that we were doing, I saw somebody at Tesco's here in Dunfermline. I just want to say, if there was a workshop in the library in Dunfermline and just said, tomorrow afternoon, if I come and get you, do you want to come and, do a comedy workshop, sit and have a laugh with comedians who, when we talk about comedians and when we talk about what we talk about on stage, we're not talking about being happily married with 4 kids. None of us are. We're talking about Bill Hicks and Chris Rock and Richard Pryor and Billy Connolly and Joan Rivers and all these people who talk about addiction and suicide and depression and grief and trauma and abuse, their life. And that, there's not, the only difference between comedians and homelessness is comedy. And I genuinely believe the healing factor that comedy, and so if we can fund workshops run by comedians, working with people who are in desperate situations, who can actually come and laugh at what's happened in their life, rather than feel the guilt and the shame and the anxiety that's sitting on the street being looked down on, literally saying, please, can I have some money? I just want to try and have some way of stopping that by having a laugh.
And so the event itself, Comedians versus Homelessness, as we said earlier, it's set to take place it's set to take place in 12 venues on the 8th of October. What was the moment that made you think, right, we need to get a bunch of comedians together and make a change now? What was it that sparked that?
Do you know what? I think partly the industry that we work in, comedians are a pivotal role in in society. Do you know what I mean? Most things that, you know, we always turn to comedy to make us feel better in good times and bad, you know.
Laughter is the best medicine.
Laughter is the best medicine. And, you know, comedians are sometimes, don't feel sorry for us, we chose this career path. But yeah, it can be a slog, and you know, we're up and down the country, we're all around, you know, in different clubs here, there and everywhere, and the industry hasn't really changed, you know, and the balance of power is, again, in comedy, it's not equitable, shall we say. You know, something like the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, for years the complaints about the fact that everybody makes money before the artists do. And I've always said, and it's been a sort of bugbear of mine, if you book a ticket to see comedians at a comedy club, the comedians are the ones probably getting the least out of it when it comes to financial gain. If we all clubbed together and said, right, we're not turning up at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, then they're not a comedy club, they're just a pub. Now, there are fantastic comedy clubs and everybody has running costs, but there is, again, this idea that, you know, within the industry, comedians get screwed over. And so I think there's a resonance with something like this again, that it's just like, rather than screwing each other over, how about we just help each other? And I think that comics really do have that sense of, because that's what we're doing. We don't make jokes to make other people feel bad. We're going on stage as therapy. We're going out to make people laugh. There's, you know, when you get some people in the audience and go, oh, I was triggered or I was upset, it's like, do you think I woke up this morning and thought, I hope there's a woman in the audience that really doesn't like my joke about my abortion and that it will trigger her in some sense? Of course I didn't. I am talking about things that resonate with other people. Sometimes they may upset other people, but that's not my problem. My problem is people not laughing. Again, so comedians, you know, it is the idea that we are just clowns going out and we're canaries down the mine. We don't know what somebody might find funny or not funny. We're just talking from our own perspective. And that's where comedy is such a healer. And I think people, we do have dark thoughts. We do sometimes, you know, we go, but we don't act on them. Everybody has dark thoughts. You know, I think Daniel Sloss said, you know, does anyone have that thing about, you know, just drop kicking a baby? You know, and it's like, so, and that's again why comedy's so powerful, because people in the audience just go, yeah, no, I have thought that, or I have done that, all right, you know, that is sometimes in my darkest moment. And so, again, though, with comedy, not just within the industry, within funding, the Department of Culture, Media and Sport hands out £16.8 billion pounds a year, of which comedy doesn't get a look in because we're not recognised as an art form. There's no pathways. So this is also, it's sort of threefold. It's one, primarily to show that collectively we can use humour as a tool to aid mental health, show awareness of, you know, how people get into a homeless situation, to then raise money to help fund workshops that could, you know, through the course of, you know, weeks and months and hopefully years, just become part of the fabric of social prescribing that, you know, you can, if you've got depression or anxiety, that exists. Social prescribing exists. You can, you know, get membership to a museum or gardening or comedy on prescription. That could be, because 8.9 million people are prescribed antidepressants in this country at the moment, and that is a health tsunami and a mental health tsunami the government does not know how to handle. And so they are realistically looking at what we're doing with comedy on prescription and with the Comedy Army event, that actually this is a legitimate pathway to help, not everybody, it's not the answer for everyone, but it is a legitimate pathway, but also that because of that, then comedy needs to be recognised as a legitimate art and a skill set that can help society, not just in comedy clubs, just on a much wider remit. So NHS, we're looking, you know, we're discussing with them, and we've got government and backbench support and going into Parliament about then. So we just, it's not about asking for money, it's about rerouting the money that's already there and putting it into projects and workshops that could make a real difference to someone's life in an afternoon, just coming along and having a laugh and going, yeah, I fucked it. which it really is an amazing
event, cause, mission. It is brilliant. And as you were saying, obviously comedy has always been a powerful voice for the social commentary. So what message do you hope people leave with after the event?
I hope people leave with the idea that you know, comedy is a real leveller. Do you know what I mean? It's something that, you know, it holds a mirror up to society and really makes us look at ourselves. And I think we can all get up our own arse and we all think, you know, oh, well, you know, and we do it in comedy. It's like, you know, one's more successful and funnier, or, you know, it's very competitive. But in reality, nothing sets us apart. You know, we've got different choices or different opportunities. And I really hope that this event it's about, you know, I'm not saying you give, every time you see somebody homeless, give them money. That's not actually what I'm saying. I'm just saying, can we just acknowledge that for whatever reason, you've just walked somebody past on the street and you just haven't. I just want people to acknowledge humanity. And when we're talking in a world that is so topsy-turvy and upside down, that I do genuinely have this absolute soapbox of going, whatever you do in your day, if you walk past someone who's homeless on the street and don't even acknowledge their existence, whatever you do for the rest of the day is irrelevant. I don't care, you know, how good you think you are, or, you know, you show off your new car or whatever, that the idea that you can't even acknowledge someone, just say hi. Or do you mean go, I'm skin too, mate? But just show that there is some life, humanity. And because we see it all the time, and it's not an either or. It's not, you know, when we talk about refugees, absolutely, we need to take in refugees. But if we can take in refugees and house 50,000, then why can't we with the homeless? So, and like I say, it's not we're doing it. It's about the solutions. We know the solutions, but for some reason, the minute you just become that low on the pecking order of, you know, social hierarchy and, you know, kind of social climbing, when you become that low, it feels like
you don't exist.
We don't exist. And I just think it blows my mind, Kyle. It absolutely blows my mind, because it's kind of going, if we're talking about diversity, if we're talking about equality, fairness, you know, racism, sexism, homophobia, no one's checked the homeless population to see that they're following all the rules that the rest of us apparently are, you know. So it's all inclusive or it's not inclusive. So I think that's my biggest bugbear, is like, oh, we have to be inclusive and we have to be equitable and diverse, but only to a certain point, because below that point, that's irrelevant. Well, it's not, because it could be it.
Yeah, so there's absolutely a bigger point beyond just trying to raise the money. So to the show itself, with the secret lineups, the audience won't have a clue who they're seeing until they're on stage.
No.
Without spoiling anything, do you have any big surprises planned for the nights?
Yeah, I genuinely, what my theory is, and this is what generally happens, and I think I'm hopefully going to sort of give an insight to what really happens behind the scenes in comedy. Like I say, you know, we're all supposing direct competition with each other because we're all sole traders and we're all trying to get gigs and we're all trying to get on. Well, I'm not trying to get on telly because I'm too old. But you know what I mean? We're all fighting for the spots and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is that comedians are really good mates, and I think that's one of the things I want that should be coming across, is just how well we all know each other. But what happens, like on a Monday night at the Stand in Edinburgh, is Red Raw. It has long been a tradition that comics, that's our weekend. So we'll all pitch up and stand at the back of the Stand Comedy Club, either wallowing and laughing at someone who's dying in their arse because we get, not because we want to see somebody have a bad gig, but we just standing there going, oh God, I remember that. Oh God, thank God that's not me. So there's something really beautiful about seeing somebody else have a dreadful gig. But equally, if we see something that's really good and we're just like, oh mate, you've really got something. So there's a real camaraderie that people don't realise. So what I'm kind of expecting from the comedy crew is, regardless of even if you're going to go on stage, you know, there's going to be an MC, opening act, 2 short acts in the middle and a closing act. There's a prize draw, Fiorentini and Baker boots. But also the comics will just be there. Comics that are not on. That you might see Daniel Sloss pour you a pint behind the bar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That Chris Forbes might bring Judy Murray, and Judy Murray might be checking your handbag before you go in to see that you've not taken anything you shouldn't have taken in with you. So that's the idea, is that the 8th of October, I think Susie McCabe said it's a very important day in the comedy calendar. That the 8th of October is in just about every comedian's diary that I know, and so my expectation is, if you're around and you're not doing anything else,
you'll be there.
You'll be there. Come and just be in the club as well with the audience. So,
can you give the other secret prize away, or is that
the other secret prize? So,
is that a surprise?
I think it is a surprise. But maybe if I announce it, then they can't go back on their promise. That's reverse psychology.
It is.
I like it. So, lovely Chiron, who is the managing co-founder director of Rocks Jewellers, has been in contact with me and my friend Anne Breen, who has been a huge tower of support in helping to sort of... We've basically been putting out begging letters saying, can we have some sponsorship? Can we have some money to help with the running costs? In fact, if anybody has got any money, I am on my arse trying to do this from a pot of zero money. But yeah, we want to sort of get t-shirts and all this kind of stuff. So just putting on the event at Meadowbank, you know, we had to go to Costco and buy water and fruit and all the kind of stuff. So, you know, that is all just coming out of our individual pockets, and we hope at some point we might, but that's not the point. But Chiron from Rocks is going to donate something that might be diamond shaped. So yes, because I just love the idea that we have Crack, which is the platform which is powering the event. We have Fiorentini and Baker, who are the bootmakers who are supporting the event, and that we have Rocks Diamonds, who are our headline sponsor. That because the only way that you can get a diamond is by putting a rock under extreme pressure, and that's what it feels like when I think about homelessness, is that someone's just collapsed under extreme pressure, but if we just give them a bit of a hand, then maybe they too can shine.
Brilliant. I love that. So, as a household name yourself, is there a difference?
Am I? In whose household?
You are.
In my own household, in Bessie Bus.
Is there a difference between a charity gig and a regular gig?
Yeah, actually. I think there's a psychology of it. And I actually don't even like calling this a charity gig, because I do feel it more as a sort of impact. It's a mission. I'm on a mission. Because charity does tend to be, and that is exactly what I really do not want this to be, is people to come to the show and go, oh, well done us. Yes, we've spent £25. Aren't we terribly good? We've helped the homeless. No. You're helping yourselves, because essentially what this money is going to do is raise awareness and create pathways that if you ever get yourself into a shitty situation and find yourself that your wife's kicked you out because you had an affair with your secretary, then there will be a safety net to pick you up, which currently doesn't exist. Or it does exist, but it just isn't. All these things exist, all these help, but they're just not coordinated, so the left hand doesn't know. So it's about bringing the whole country together and creating a network of support. So sometimes audiences at a charity gig, they do feel, I think sometimes, like, oh, aren't we good? Aren't we? We're very good. Yeah. And actually, go fuck yourself. So, I hate that sort of worthy do-goodery. I think it is more about just going, life's a bit shit, guys, and it's getting shitter, and the cost of living crisis and the difference between the top 1% and the rest of us.
Yeah.
I mean, 784 was a company that was set up in Glasgow, a theatre company. It was called 784 because in that time, 84% of the wealth was owned by 7% of the population, and that was in the 80s.
Yeah.
784 is how they got their name. We are so far, and given the huge leaps and strides forward in technology and humanity and and understanding, and the internet, for all of its badness, is an incredible tool that we use badly.
Yeah,
I mean,
just gets bigger.
yeah. So, but the gap is fucking fundamentally, furiously awful. But, and for whatever reason, the top 1% want to hang on to the money. I kind of get it. Do you know what I mean? If you're loaded, fine. But we too individually can make a difference to level. And the more that we help people from down below level up, the more then I think it helps society as a whole. And I think it was Kevin Bridges had that brilliant thing about give people on benefits £1,000 a week because they'll spend it on booze and fag. And that's very preconceived, judgmental, but actually, stop making people absolutely beg on the streets. But it's not, there's hidden homelessness. And I think as well, if we're really honest with each other, middle classes earn just enough to afford blinkers. I don't think even they can afford blinkers anymore. So people are hiding a lot of what is genuinely going on in their lives. And I want to just blow away that myth that we can't. Money's such a grubby thing, and people feel so. It's a very British thing. It's like nobody likes to ask how much you earn or how much something costs, and if we do, we're like, I got a charity shop, it was just cheap. No, let's just be really honest about the fact that we're struggling. There's no shame in it. And so this is basically, it's a stop shaming because the biggest disability in this country, I think, is poverty. Over and above everything else.
And going on from that, obviously I'm at Fife College, and we had our student president elections just before summer, and one of the student president's campaign point was about where do you go if you get kicked out as a student? Like, you can't afford to rent somewhere, you can't afford this, can't afford that, but also there's a stigmatism to go into a homeless shelter. So what do you do?
What do you do?
And that definitely sparked an interest here.
Wow.
Because what do you do if you're homeless and a student?
Yeah.
And the stigmatism behind it, like, sometimes you've not hit rock bottom, sometimes someone else has and put you in a situation. So it's definitely an interesting one to see everyone come together.
Well, that's it. And I think as well, because we don't want to think of worst case scenario, because we are, and especially as comics, we are, we're the most pessimistic, but we're also the most optimistic. We've always got to be kind of going, it's going to be great, and we're going to, do this gig, and you're, as a comedian, you're only as good as your last gig. You can have the best night of your life on a Saturday and then do another gig on a Sunday and die on your ass. So it is not knowing what is round the corner. And we like to think that we've planned and we've prepared, but I know from a personal point of view, just 1, 2, 3 bad rolls of the dice in a row, and then suddenly, shit, I don't have enough money for the rent. And then if asking to borrow money becomes, and if you've asked to borrow, it's a stigma, and you're kind of making yourself vulnerable, especially in this profession when you're always trying to be making out that you're doing great. Oh yeah, my diary's packed. So again, I think that's why I do get it. Is I know that I've had to balance that, looking like I'm really successful household name, whilst going, I'm not sure if I've got enough petrol to get Bessie up to Aberdeen, actually, and admitting that and actually solving the problem. So, I think so many people juggle with that inner sort of monologue of how much do I really admit that I'm a bit on my arse, but then going, until you really face it because you're forced to, then you find out, there's no one to catch me.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. There we go. You've got it out of me. That is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to basically sew together a net. Comedians have become a net. Unlikely saviours. But yeah, I think collectively that.
Well, for me, even there's so many comedians that you wouldn't like selling out fringe shows, but they sofa surf.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a famous story about Michael McIntyre, and I don't know if it's true, but I think it is, that he was, I mean, well documented that he was, nearing bankruptcy. I think he was £30,000 in debt or something. And then had done the fringe, done quite well. And then, his rise to stardom is, for all to see. But I was told that because in amongst all this, whether you're doing comedy clubs or corporates or after dinner speakers, so he'd been booked and I think was offered a substantial sum of money to do a gig, for a corporate gig, and then he found out either when he was there or before, I think he left it to the last minute to tell them to go fuck themselves, he wasn't doing it, for a company called Cabot Financial, who I've had dealings with. One of the, is a debt collection company who are, I get that you owe money and you need to get it back, but again, it's about how you treat people and making someone just feel like shit and hounding them, and basically just, so you're cowering in your living room, terrified to answer the phone or open the door. That's no way to treat someone, regardless of what state they've got. No, it doesn't get you out the hole. And then to, impound it or compound it by adding more fees, and it's like people with electricity meters, you pay by card. It costs 5 times what it normally costs. It's like, why does everything have to be more expensive? And it just is arse over tit. The more famous you become, you never have to pay for dinner. You don't even have to pay for your clothes that you wear on the red carpet. You're just going, this is stupid. Why are we giving away things for free to
the ones
people
that
completely afford it? So again, this is what this feels like, is arse over tit. It's in reverse, that the comics with the least amount of money are the ones that are going out to help people with even less money. So
it's a good cause regardless. And obviously organising this event is a whirlwind. Yes. What has been the most crazy thing that's happened behind the scenes that no one would believe?
I think going into Parliament, South by Southwest, when there was a woman who is the head of services for Marriott Hotels.
All right.
And she saw me at the South by Southwest launch and then said, just tell me and I'll just give you hotel rooms for the comedians and all the rest of it. I was like, oh, okay. Just the amount of people who have the guy that's helping me with the social media and making all the assets works for a well-known firm. I won't tell them because I think he's moonlighting or something. But the amount of people that have just genuinely seen what's been happening, and that's how the comedy army's grown. It's just people just genuinely just go in, this looks great, how can I help? And it's been that. There's obstacles because life is an obstacle, but the amount of people that have just come on board, which is what's given me the complete faith to keep going, when I've just gone, why did you ever open your stupid fucking mouth, Sutherland? What a ridiculous idea. What on earth possessed you? Is that the amount of people who do think it's a good idea and have thrown the weight behind it. Little Alex Horn from Taskmaster, he messaged and said, I just saw this announced and it's a great idea. I'm actually doing a gig on the 10th of October for a homeless charity that he helps, and how can I get involved? So it's things like that. You just go, this is great. The behind the scenes things, maybe if I say them out loud they'll manifest, but somebody asked me where was I going to be? Was I going to be in London or Scotland? And that I still haven't decided. But I kind of think I should be in London to start, and then I thought, maybe get a flight up and then be in Edinburgh. And I was in the car with Dan Tiernan, and Dan Tiernan said, why don't you do a gig on a flight? And I was like, that's a great idea. And then my daughter Ailey is friends with someone whose dad is the CEO of Loganair, but I haven't managed to ask him yet. But then I was like, maybe I could ask Richard Branson. So basically, behind the scenes, I'm planning for someone to let me go on a flight from London to Scotland and do a gig. And then I thought, even better idea, because I do tour support for Jonathan Pye, is that we get Tom Walker, who's a character who plays the character Jonathan Pye, and we could put Jonathan Pye in the sky. And then I thought, found out that the biggest homeless shelter in the world is in Sydney, and which is called, I've forgotten the name of it, the Matthew Talbot Centre. And Tom Walker, aka Jonathan Pye, his half-sister is the CEO of that. So now I want Richard Branson to fly me and Tom from London to Australia to do a gig at the Matthew Talbot Centre. So there's all, and when I say that these conversations are being had, I think we've got to a secretary's PA secretary of Richard Branson, but
it's a step closer.
But in my mind, there's no such thing as a mad idea, and it's that thing just going, like I say, it was just going to be one gig, and now it's 12 gigs, and it could be more. It could be a gig in Australia. So, I didn't even imagine it would get to this. So the limitations are boundless. And then somebody said, you're going to do it every year, and my answer to that is no, because if you can't solve it, it's not solving it in 1 year. But that is a thing.
You can't get the ball rolling. Yeah.
You can't get the ball rolling, and the momentum, and actually sees, because it's about systematic change. It's not just about doing,
one night.
Yeah. It's about really having conversations behind the scenes with people who are in the front line of working with people who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. But it is, I think, genuinely, it's about giving hope, and I think it's about the guys that was working with the Simon community, and we did the Meadowbank Day, and there was 3 of those guys. I got them free tickets to Best of Irish at the stand, and I just so happened to be going along the street, and I saw them in the queue, and I went, "Oh, you don't have to queue," and I took them in personally, and literally they still are out in the street, and they're still homeless, and they have no fixed abode. But then I was having lunch with my youngest, and I saw Davy and Rab, and they came up and hugged me, and my daughter just looked horrified. She went, "Why are the homeless hugging you?" And I was like, "No." And they genuinely just went, "These last 48 hours," he said, "have just been amazing." He said, "For the first time in ages, I feel quite special." And I was like, and that's it.
Yeah,
Everybody
deserves
deserves it. And of course, I'm not fucking saving anybody. I'm not solving anything. All I'm doing, essentially, is taking all the experience I've had, all the bad choices I've made, the tools that I've found that helped me to overcome some of those obstacles. All I'm doing is going, here's some tools that might help you. I can't fucking save you, because basically no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you. You've got to save yourself. But here's some tools that might help you.
Yeah. You've just shown people the first steps that work.
Yeah. Or they've worked for me, and they've worked for other people, and there's loads of evidence that suggests that, there's
no harm in trying.
There's no harm in trying, and the best bit is you don't have to bake a cake or run a marathon. All I'm asking audiences to do is go and sit in a club and have a fucking laugh.
Yeah, I can't wait. So you might have answered this with the last point there, but what's been the most heartwarming moment you've had from working with the Comedy Army?
I think it is just some of the messages that I've got from people that I just didn't expect. I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting anything. I genuinely was. This is quite a cool idea. I think I can, I know enough people. I've got 25 years of experience of hanging out with a lot of comedians. In some ways, it was just a kind of, maybe because I'm retiring from the live circuit next year. It's like my farewell party. Let's go out with a bang. But I genuinely, I'm always amazed when I do something that has an impact on someone else that I didn't realise I'd even had. Do you know that way where you kind of go, I go about my day, I just get up, I have a cup of tea, have a fag, I spend far too much cigarette, I talk to my kids, I tootle around. And then when you just get a message, like those guys just going, I just felt really special. And it was like, oh, well, that's cool. All right, cool. Well, I'm glad that worked. So, yeah, I think that's...
Just knowing there's a difference being made.
Yeah. And even a difference being... I think if you look at the reverse of that, if by doing something like this, I can inadvertently affect people in a good way that I didn't even realise without trying, that has had a good impact, that it's just to be mindful of, I've been a cunt in my time as well. that is cause and effect. You don't know the effects you have on people.
Yeah.
And you very rarely find out the effects you have on people because, you know, it's out into the ether. But it works both ways. So doing something decent usually has a decent impact, and doing something shitty usually has a shitty impact. So, yeah.
So, after October the 8th, what's next for the Comedy Army?
It's a really good question. What I would like the Comedy Army to become is basically the comedians collective, as it were. I want the Comedy Army to be a noise that reminds the British public and the world at large that comedy is something that we can't afford to lose as an art form, and it is in danger because the circuit is fragmented. Comics cannot. You don't have full-time comics like when I first started. People genuinely cannot afford, and I see the circuit as the beating heart of comedy. You don't get any sketch shows or comedy films or arena comics without the comedy circuit. Michael McIntyre was on the comedy circuit. Everybody started on the circuit, and now the circuit is really battered and bruised because clubs don't pay enough. That's because, for all various different economic reasons, the balance of power has shifted, and comics are treated. The wages have not gone up in 20 years. The accommodation is very rare. You don't get fed and watered. All of these things that, in order to kind of, it sounds ridiculous, but going on stage in front of a room full of strangers every night, not knowing who you're talking to, and taking your own words and your own vulnerability, we're basically exposing ourselves every single time we walk on stage to, we don't know what the reaction is going to be, whether it's being heckled, having things thrown at you, people walking out, people shouting, or people laughing. We do not know. And that takes a long time to perfect, to get, there's masters at it. Tom Stade is a master of, holding a room. The Reverend Obadiah Steppenwolf III, all of these comedians, and Michael McIntyre's they all started on the circuit. And if we lose the power of the circuit because we're just going, we don't need comedians. We can just do our own thing. No, you can't. You actually, you need training. You can't just jump on TikTok and be a comedian because you've done 5 minutes.
Funny for 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I think, and as much as there's a real power in social media and getting rid of middleman and finding your audience directly, the power really is the absolute core of, and being with your peers, watching other comics, schlepping up and down the road, getting the experiences, because that's what we're talking about. Like I say, we are doing day in, day out what other people, are going through, and I think it's really important that the comedy circuit. I'm asking all the comedians to come home for one day to the circuit. Remember where it all started? Because
remember, even work in progresses. Without the circuit, they don't have the next tour show.
No. And it's where they come back to try for their tour shows. Michael McIntyre will pop into Top Secret and do 10 minutes. But if you're not going to, if Top Secret, who make people phone up on the day, ordinary jobbing comedians, if they don't respect and look after and nurture that circuit coming through, then you'll never get another Michael McIntyre or a Ricky Gervais or a Paul Smith or a Kevin Bridges or a Frankie Boyle or a Sarah Millican or these acts were nurtured and formed in the womb. Basically, the comedy circuit is the womb, and if we keep kicking it in the cunt, then we're not going to have any more.
Even Dave Chappelle, probably one of the biggest American comics. He goes to hot water to do a work in progress instead of an arena in the UK. So tells you what even internationally they think of the circuit. So to round it out, everyone...
Which is why people need to buy tickets, because I swear to God, right, so, and everybody knows about it, comedians are useless at sharing, but genuinely, I got ticket reports. So Leeds Glee has sold 2, Hot Water has sold 4, Comedia Bath has sold none. So, just like, that's what I'm talking about, guys. I need to get bums on seats. But yeah, it's that thing. You're always going to take a risk whenever you go to a comedy club, but that's part of the fun. Sometimes the gig, you'll just see a gem, or you'll see someone that you've seen before, or But one thing that'll be absolutely guaranteed, it will be wall to wall, jam packed with killer comics.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we were saying before the record, the biggest names in comedy are coming home.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Absolutely. In one way or the other. Yeah. One way or another, they are all going to pop their noses through the door, or even if it's just on but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even where some of them found their feet.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So everyone I interview leaves an anonymous message for the next.
Oh.
The last person interviewed said, "Comparison is a thief of joy, but happiness isn't the key to great art." Because a lot of great artists aren't always happy.
Most great artists are fucking miserable.
Yes. So what would you like to pass on to the next?
Oh, God.
Could be anything. I've had some really crazy...
Oh, God. Now I need to really... I had something in my head there. Well, it's that... I like that people face their fears. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of... Do one thing every day that scares the shit out of you. Like Drive Bessie Bus scares the shit out of me every day, because she's a bitch.
She's a big bus.
She's a big bus, but she loves running out of petrol because she doesn't like to tell me that she's nearly empty. Yeah. Don't be a cunt. I think that's always a good one. Yeah,
they're two solid things.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's perfect.
Yeah, without sounding like a sanctimonious wanker, which I'm increasingly feeling people just look at me just going, "Oh, shut the fuck up, Sutherland. Go and fucking have a pint," which I will go and do. I just think life is just so much easier if you spend your day being nice to people.
It's free.
So yeah. What is it? Oh, that's the other one, isn't it? It takes 42 muscles to frown, and it only takes 4 muscles to smile and 42 muscles to frown.
I don't know. I like that.
So yeah.
So, Comedy Army, 8th of October. Plug it.
Army. Yeah, plug it. So Aberdeen Breakneck, Edinburgh Stand, Glasgow Stand, Glasgow Glee, Newcastle Stand, Birmingham Glee, Leeds Glee, Bath Comedia, London Backyard Comedy Club, and Forge Comedia in Brighton. The Forge in Brighton.
Everywhere that's worth going to see comedy.
Yeah.
Comedy's on.
And then if we sell these out, then maybe Darrow put one on in Nottingham. But it is that genuine thing where people go, "Oh, there isn't one here." It's like, can we go straight on the ones that we do have? Can we just jump into, why isn't there one in Dublin? Because it was getting too complicated. Yeah. But we do have 12 cities. Yeah. There must be one gig that everyone can get to in between those parameters. Yeah.
You can travel for this.
Yeah. So
go see it. Best comics.
Yeah.
Might even be pulling your pint.
Well, that's it. And I think it is that's the joy of comedy is I don't think comics should ever become famous, because I think if you become famous you lose the ability to be objective.
Yes.
Because Michael McIntyre is not getting a bus to work. No. Ricky Gervais is not standing in a queue in Tesco unnoticed. And so I genuinely think as a clown that you should never become too famous, so that you can properly reflect society from a comedic lens.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.